Alright guys, welcome to the stream.
Yes, well,
And we're going to go ahead and get back to work on the dirt track at Charlotte here.
sorry, I didn't mean to step on you almost there. Round two, I guess, of what we consider to be session three. These live streams for the dirt track of Charlotte.
I believe I want to do a little bit of modeling to start off with here on the drag strip media center.
Great. I'm going to continue where I left off with the trading the infield plane for the black hole. I'm going to apply that to Make 3D art. I already exported out my pass file. And I'm going to run this through Make 3DO. So I'm going to bring up my command prompt. Now I know I've mentioned this in a previous stream about how to use this Make 3DO utility. And obviously, like I said, it is a DOS program. I've already pointed to queue up that directory where the Make 3DO executable application is at. Now what I'm doing is saying, okay, I want it to find, which is this -p, which is for a pass file. This infield pass that I created. And I don't have any type of reflection, anything like that to apply to it, so I don't need any other parameters after pass file name. Just hit enter, and what that does is it spits out a 3DO, which you'll see here. And because I've got the texture that I've got applied to it, I can call that up using 3D SimEd just to get a rough look at what it looks like. But as I said before in previous streams, best way to look at your object once it spits it out using the Make 3DO utility is to use the View 3D. That's what I'm going to do.
No whisper target found.
Gotta turn those whispers off. Try that. I had to do that from last time, I forgot all about it.
No whisper target found.
have to work on that later. Got to take them darn whispers out.
No whisper target found. No whisper target found.
Nice little utility when you can get it to work as far as TeamSpeak goes, but it has its faults sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, all I've done here is just change the directory so I can call up my View 3D program. Utility in the sandbox directory. So there's that. And change it to resolution 1024 by 768. Nice and big. And because I've already got it View 3D pointed to my Make 3DO directory, it automatically will call up that directory, so it already automatically will go there. So all I got to do is just select the 3DO in that directory. And probably won't be able to see it in here because it's of this size. There it is. And like I said, this is the best way I've figured, because to look at your objects once it's made. This is exactly how it'll show in Sandbox and of course into the game. 3D SimEd tends to, I think James hit on that before, will tend to add polys and that to it. Like for instance, if you don't have a backside on something, it'll tend to take what's on the on one face and show it on the other side. So it tends to give you a false representation of what the actual object looks like. I always like to rely on this Make 3DO as opposed to just dropping it into the track via Sandbox or whatever and looking at it that way. You're really going to town there.
Yeah, a lot of this is going to get deleted because you're not going to see it. But
Are you applying, I guess, what you had found with that that other video you were showing me earlier offline with the target welds?
I was attempting to, but I haven't mastered it yet, so don't judge me too harshly.
Oh no, I'm not at all. I'm just saying that be a good time, I guess, to try that out.
Didn't seem to work as expected, I'll say it that way.
Gotcha. Anyway, shows the object in Make 3DO, so I'll just close this out, unload it. I'm going to leave this command prompt open because I'll probably use it later. Now I'm going to take my 3DO here, put that in my there we go. And I'm going to put that in my unpack tract, in my track editing folder for this build. Refresh this here. I was working on it, the track a little bit offline, so I'm going to refresh this and then close it, reopen it. I guess as you can see, a little bit of reminiscing, I guess, on the image that we're using to show the, to get the proper dimensions, I guess, of the track, radiuses of the turn and whatnot. You can see the Google Earth image. Right now I've currently got the linear guide when I measured the infield. And what I'm going to attempt to do here, obviously the texture doesn't reflect that as of yet, but for the infield is cover this area, roughly where this linear guide is in the center of the track, and represent all this stuff, all these pathways that are in the infield somewhat accurately. And that first piece of the puzzle is that plane that I just recreated in that infield object that I'm going to apply. I'm going to reload this track from a previous save. Okay, there we are. And then just for reference here, I'm going to turn off the textures. There we go. And this will give you somewhat of an idea of exactly how close the geometry of the track and sandbox matches to the geometry of the actual Google Earth image. You can see the blue lines are the walls with the appropriate openings. But this infield has eluded me, I guess, from the start of this build because wasn't exactly sure what was going to be the best approach to make this whole area, I guess, that's not racing surface an entire 3DO, or to combine that by using a 3DO with some track surface decals, or TSDs as we call them. And I'm tending to think that it would be beneficial, look more proper, I guess, to create that as a 3DO as I've just done. And I'm going to apply this now that I've got that in there. Go to my objects, trackside objects view. And I'm going to right click to add trackside object. This is everything that is available to me to apply to this track, to include all the stuff that's in the shared folder. Nothing of that nature needs to go in there yet. The items that placed in there manually, or that have either built, James had done the backside of the full track, that's in there. The horizon's in there. Here's my infield. I'm going to select that. And obviously you can see that puts that right there. So I'm going to select it and move it into place. Now in some cases, a lot of times when you first apply an object to a track, you won't see it. And you'll just see the yellow bounding box as far as like what defines that particular object. This case, it wasn't. It's such a simple object, it didn't have that issue. But when you experience that, when you're trying to add an object to there and it doesn't show up, and you'd be like scratching your head, what happened? All you got to do is save the track, and usually what's best is to do it as a separate PTF. Enable it, and then all you got to do is take that new PTF, reload the track, and then it'll show up, so you can position it properly. But here's the object in place, and you can see the yellow bounding lines as far as like what defines the object itself. And what I'm going to do is just drop it just a skosh so that I don't see those sharp four corners, and then you'll still be able to see funny word, skosh.
That's an audio company, isn't it?
Probably is. You might be able to fill me in on that. You probably know more about that than me.
Yeah, we'll just say they make very poor quality dash kits and leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, all I'm basically doing right now, the Z, which would be the height as far as how high the object is showing in the track, it's more or less almost practically at Z as far as its, in fact I could probably zero it out. That's how I measured it. Put the X and the Y at 0. And I see I might have been off just a touch, because I can still see. Alrighty then. How's the other end look, just for Yep, that is off a little bit, okay. I'll just move it manually. Even off of my measurements just a little bit. Not a big deal. Yeah, we'll try that. And going back to what I initially was trying to do is just drop it down a little bit on the Z. See it go down just a little bit. I could probably just adjust the, I think that's probably what I'll do. Just adjust the F sections in that area just to close up some of them gaps in it. Yeah, we'll fix that. Common thing that I find that's best to do when you're applying a 3DO when you have it highlighted, like I did there, as I'll zoom way out, just like I did, and just click outside the track to deselect it, just to make sure. You'll find this to be very useful, I guess, when you start adding a lot of stuff, objects into your track, because if you try to right-click off, and you might click on another one, and it's like a never-ending cycle sometimes. Just zoom way out of the track where there's nothing there, click outside of it, deselect it. I'm going to go back to geometry view. And as you'd notice too, when I went to the trackside objects view, it turned the textures back on. And as I go back to geometry view, the textures are back off, because that's initially what I had it at. It's kind of a nice feature with Sandbox, because you can go back and forth between the two views to see. As you see right there, textures are back on, and that view, go back to geometry, and they're back off. And I can turn that back on by just draw world underneath. Now it's all back on. So what I'm going to do now, this is the other thing too, I guess, when you want to do anything with your X sections, after each save, every session, after you close out Sandbox in particular, if you want to edit any X sections, in order to select those X sections, you have to unlock all geometry. So I'm going to do that. Way out of the track, outside the track, right click, and there's an option for unlock all geometry. You want to choose that, doesn't really do anything other than the fact that it'll allow you now, once you do that, to select those X sections.
And you can also accidentally completely delete a segment, so it's a good idea to back up right before you do that.
That's a good idea. That's a good point. Got a fairly fresh save on that, so yes. If I was to screw it up at this point, as far as like delete a section after unlocking my geometry, so like right now, if I was to right click, delete that segment, I would have something to refer to.
You can also accidentally do that by hitting delete if you're trying to clean up a track or something like that, and you want to delete a bunch of X sections. You unwittingly select the center line instead of the X section. That segment's automatically gone when you hit delete.
That's a good point. Yes, delete key can be your enemy in that respect, and that usually will only happen, I think, when you do that unlock all geometry.
If you take a look at my stream real quick, something that I did take away from Free W67's video this morning is how to rotate simple things by snapping them to angles. Like if you want to rotate a plane, you would select the plane that you want to rotate and then go up to the top and hit the angle snap toggle. And then select the select and rotate tool. And if you watch down there on the X number, it will change by 5 degrees. Oops, hold on a second. I have to do it when I'm not holding a button, but it'll change 5 degrees as you move that instead of being almost 90 degrees and then having to go back and change the vertices separately.
Oh, that's interesting. Gives you more precision, is what you're saying.
Yeah, see, that's way faster to get right to 90 degrees or anything in between.
Right. And again, I don't want anybody to be shy. Any viewers that we have out there, we are monitoring our chats, both on the multi-Twitch and on our individual channels. So if you have any questions or anything general about what we got going on here, just feel free to chime in. I got an F section in here that's not attached. How interesting is that?
Grass matches pretty well for an object.
Yeah, when you zoom in really close, as I am right now, you'll probably see that in a second. It doesn't match. I borrowed that texture that I put on that object from another track, so it wasn't from this track, and I'll probably adjust it just as a placeholder for now. That's what I'm.
Now, I think I've gone through that before where if you apply the texture to an object, it ends up not receiving the global lighting.
Talking about going through 3D Sim Ed.
No, just in general. See how the grass is probably the same texture, but it's slightly different colored?
No, it's a totally different texture. Like I said, I borrowed it from another track. I would imagine
okay.
if I used the same texture that's for this track that we have in there, it would match. Obviously, too, with the mapping, like I didn't mess with the mapping at all. I just slapped it on there, slapped the UVW unwrap modifier, and I didn't change it at all. Wherever it left is where I left it. I'll probably end up having to adjust that as we progress here, but for now, all I'm doing right now is just filling in those gaps as far as what that object doesn't cover, these F sections and that. You can see in camera view, though, those are gone. You can still see it down on this end. All gone. Zoom on around the other side, see what's going on there. Oh, nicely that. It'll look even better once we get it, fully detailed as far as like what's all going on there. A little hole right here. Fix that. I'm pretty satisfied with that for now. Just got another hole in here in this end. Almost got away from me. Oh, that looks so much better so far. Let's see what I could do. This is something I've been contemplating. You can really see the difference in that texture now as far as the color. Like I said, that's something from another track. But what I was thinking of doing is once I got that 3DO in place, I wanted to see how it would look. And obviously I can see that now. I could make TSDs to create those pathways present themselves. Let me turn the textures off. Yeah, and I guess going back from the previous stream that we did earlier today, I mentioned about running this object, this infield object, through a pass as opposed to 3D SimEd. 3D SimEd has the propensity, I guess, to add a population switch to it, to the point where if you push your O key, I guess, while in the game, it turns objects on or off. That particular item there, I don't want it to do that. So by running it through a pass file, it more or less eliminates that population switch. So now, if I was to show this in the game and push the O key, that infield object, that 3DO for that object, will not go away, will not disappear. That's one of the reasons I guess I decided to go through that method as opposed to going through 3D SimEd. Not knocking 3D SimEd at all. It has some pretty reliable features on it that but what I was thinking, I was gonna turn the textures off. Okay. So what I basically want to be able to do now is take this, all these pathways, and this is something, again, wasn't sure if I should make a 3DO just to cover this entire infield, to make this present itself. As far as like being able to take off the Google Earth image, for instance, and apply that as a texture to the 3DO. Or simply just to create TSDs to create these pathways.
Like I said, on this model that I'm working on right now, I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to keep, but I want to go ahead and make the bulk of what I think you're going to be able to see, and then I'll put it in there and see what I can get rid of later.
Right. I can remove whichever faces I guess aren't needed and which aren't.
Exactly.
I'm just going through some of the textures that I have. It's really got me stumped as far as how to get that infield properly represented there. I'm half tempted, whatever, to take a Google Earth image, use that as a texture, and fill in any voids, I guess, that present themselves as far as moving the innermost infield F sections and X sections closer to the apron, and then just expose, I guess, that that texture I created for a 3D object. Don't know how that would look.
I believe that's what I did for Daytona when we added all those TSDs for the ground. Is use the Earth image as a template and then paint using the track, grass and asphalt textures underneath of it, or on top of it. Excuse me.
Right. What I was thinking though is actually taking the texture. I see you're saying just using it as a guide, played in like Photoshop or whatnot. But I was thinking of actually taking the Google Earth image, use that as my texture for the object that you put in the track. I think that would look weird, not good.
I can tell you that it hasn't worked very well in the past. I don't know. NASCAR 2003 graphics have their own unique colors, so.
Right. I think I'll stick probably what you're suggesting there is just to use it as a guide to paint those. That's probably better yet. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Still haven't taken out my my previous BTFs in there. I still have them in there. Those will eventually get purged. Still maintain them. I just remove them from what I'm working on. I don't select the wrong one. Moving forward. Okay. You had. I'm trying to remember what you named the object. Is that the CDT?
Yes.
Sounds like I just got another follow. Thank you.
Well, speaking of which, I need to do that.
that was from Homeboy. Thank you very much, Homeboy. Getting back to what I was saying about that texture that you've got in there for the Google Earth image, I think that's the CDT one, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to remember. I know there's not that much in here, but it's like I still have the original one that I had in there, because I know you had one that was a little fresher. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so might need a bigger picture of that though, so I can get.
Do you need more of the outside area, or do you need a bigger infield?
I want to get as close to the infield as possible. I mean, I could fire up Google Earth. I wasn't sure how big the texture you had it in in that CDT. I just opened it now on WinMap. I'll just fire up Google Earth and I'll.
Yeah, I've got a way to stitch together multiple images if we need a larger ground map or something.
Right. I like just as you were saying, as far as like just use it as a guide. Background, I guess, to get those pathways and such in there. Yeah, I'll just go into Google Earth, and it's not like I don't have enough programs open, right?
Use that RAM.
No kidding. Okay, I think I can get out of this in Max. I already got that made. Now I'm gonna close Max right out. For now, let's go into Google Earth. Let's go flying around. Love this tool. Okay. You know, and looking at the pictures, the picture references that we have there, all these little um, pictures that you have in like a semicircle on the infield here that point towards the turns. Those are lights.
Yeah, it does have a few infield lights.
Yep. I thought they were just like barrels or something, but you know, like you look at some of the pictures, like at events going on at night, you could totally see that those are light fixtures. I just got another follow from James. Thank you, James.
Yeah, that was me.
Follow. My follow alert is working properly. Right now all I'm doing is just saving an image, my desktop here of this, what's in my screen right now from on Google Earth. Minimize that. Here it is right here. Open that up in Paint Shop. And there it is. So basically all I want to do is use this as a guide to be able to paint all these different areas here as far as these pathways, and it's looking to me like that's some kind of a pavement actually, with like dustings of dirt. So I need a probably asphalt texture. Don't think I have anything in this track. No, I don't. Do have some options in Eldora. Let's close up Google Earth.
In total, that media object's about 30 polygons, so it's not terrible.
So far?
Yeah, I'd call that done, to be honest.
30 polygons. Looks like more than that. I was looking at it. As far as the detail of it.
I could certainly get some more in there, but I don't think it's necessary.
I probably didn't really need to put it in this folder, but I'm borrowing this asphalt texture that I had done for the Eldora build. Probably won't necessarily need to need it in the track mat. I'm just putting it in there just so that I know it's all together, so I don't have to keep going back to try and find it.
Thank you very much for the follow, Hamboy.
I'm getting some followers too, huh?
Yep.
Good deal. Once again, I will let everybody know that's new to the feed. Chat's open. We're monitoring those. If you have any questions or just in general. Homeboys letting me know it's like it's a good thing you got a good computer and all that stuff in the background. I was saying about probably talking about how many applications I had running. What I'm doing now is that texture that I copied over from another track, because this asphalt texture, creating a bitmap for it so I can use that to apply to the infield object I'm trying to make for Charlotte. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So I made it into a bitmap. And call that up from that folder. Okay, now there's my texture. What I'm going to use this for as a base, because this is all these paths here, it's all asphalt. So what I'm going to do is create base, I guess, to draw these paths-wise. I'm going to add grass. This will be a little bit of a process, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Need a grass texture. Open this one up. Okay, so in combination so far between this asphalt and this grass is what I'm going to use as the outlying textures, I guess, for this infield. So let's try this. Might have to resize it, but I'm going to see how this works. Can't even see the seams in that thing. That's how good I did. Okay, so there's the asphalt. I'll take the grass. Do another layer. I might be late on responding to Homeboy there, but it's like he's off to the races himself. Appreciate you watching.
Yep, appreciate the follow. Good luck.
Alright, now that I got the two textures that I want to have define the grass and the paved areas for this infield. I think I'm going to combine those two. That might be the easiest. No, that's not going to work. Alright, since I don't really need to do, it's the grass really I want to remove from the, I want to be able to reveal the paved areas, I guess, in conjunction with the grass. Yeah, so basically it's just a matter of removing some of this grass to reveal the asphalt underneath. So while I'm in that grass layer, I'm going to have my template here to draw some lines in the grass to remove that. So let's do that. Now I'm going to use my draw tool. And I'm going to use my favorite color, magenta. Do not want any alias because I don't want the edge to be fuzzy when I go to try to remove that. I'm going to make sure anti-alias is turned off. I just got it at a width of 1. I can see what I'm doing here just by turning off that template that I'm using, because there's my lines. It's going to be covered because it's layer underneath. But I can see my lines here. I have to freehand that curve.
What I'm doing is just kind of starting the texture for the media center at the drag strip there.
Nice. I'm drawing out all these different pathways. I've got, I don't know if you heard me mention that or not, I've got 2 layers for the pavement and then the grass over top of it. Right now I'm in the grass layer, drawing lines based on that Google Earth image, all my lines to cut those areas out. Get it just about drawn out.
Apologize for being so quiet, guys. Just you get so far into concentration there, just forget what you're doing.
It's very intensive. All I'm doing now is just cleaning up the edges there, so when I go to fill this, it'll only take out what I want it to take out.
Vaguely looks like the Punisher mask, doesn't it?
What?
So that outline vaguely looks like the Punisher mask, doesn't it?
Oh, my outline? Yeah.
Just glance down and saw that.
Yeah, I'm just cleaning up the edges now so that I can, when I flood it, it'll only flood what I want it to flood. In fact, I guess while I'm at it, I'm just gonna try this right now. Yep, still got some more to do. Okay, let's see here. getting there. Like mostly on this one side here. I think we have a winner. See, now you get a better perspective of what I'm trying to accomplish here. So all these areas that are magenta, pink, will be revealed once I take my magic wand tool, and it'll show that asphalt texture underneath.
I messed up. What program are you using there? Is it Paint Shop?
Yep, Paint Shop Pro. Yeah, see, now you get a better picture of what I was trying to accomplish here. All the areas that are magenta, so now it shows through all the asphalt, and there's all my pathways. Now, keeping in mind, this would be assuming if I was to make an entire 3D object, I guess, to overlay the entire infield by a sandbox, so it would be this entire area. So, more than likely what I'll end up having to do, one of two things. Either move these X sections, these innermost X section and F section, inward so I can expose more of that, and then fill in with TSDs, I guess, what doesn't show. Or just completely go right over top of all this stuff in here in the infield and just have it float right on top of that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to merge all this. Better yet, let's do this. This is one feature I like with Paint Shop, and I think you and I talked about if this was an option in CS6 and or Photoshop. But see how I can select this all, and I've got 3 different layers. Well, actually 2 that I'm actually got visible. One of which I'm in right now. I can select. Just saved it for me. Cool. I can select what I want to merge into one image. So I've got that selected. I can go to Edit, Copy Merged, and then paste into a new image. And there's my image, already merged. That didn't turn out too bad. I'm looking at that. I'm kind of impressed with myself. now it's as I said. What I could potentially do with this texture is actually create an infield object. Obviously, it would be different than the one I just placed in here. Create it probably more of an oval and apply that texture I just created to it. I think I might just do that. Let's see if I can get this texture more the size that I need it to be as far as Enter 2003 is concerned. It has to be in powers of 2. Right now my texture is a 967 by 562. Okay. I've got a better idea. I'm going to back this up. Yeah, I know what I'm going to do. Close that out. Got the original one here. This a little bit bigger. And I'm going to create another new image. The size that I know is acceptable by Enter 2003, so I'll do a 1024 by 512. And now I've got my texture I just merged into an acceptable size that Enter 2003 will recognize. I'm going to overwrite the one I originally had, because I had borrowed that from another track. Match anyway. No, that's going to require us to create a new 3DO object for the infield. I'm thinking I'm going to add an alpha channel to this. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
What do you think about that top texture there?
Oh wow, that's the model texture?
Yeah.
That is insanely nice. Got a lot of depth to it. Is it kind of raised? Yeah. That is wild. Yeah, that's gonna look awesome. Okay, what I'm basically gonna do now is the texture that I've already merged. I'm going to create um, an alpha channel around this so that when I apply the texture to the new object, the new 3DO object for the infield that I'm going to create, it'll take out all this excess. Because I don't want that. There we go. I've just got to play around with stuff a little bit.
Looks like we're about an hour and a half into the stream here.
Roger that. Still nobody else chiming in the chat. Don't be shy. There are no dumb questions here. this turned out pretty good. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's all freehand. That looks better. This is what I'll use as my texture for my new 3DO infield object. Stage 1, I'll just say that. I'll fire up Max again. Now I'm going to use my original texture or object that I created, model that I created for just filling in the black hole and just stretch it out. Take some measurements in Sandbox to get a different measurement. I think it's about 203 by 114. You know what? I'm just going to create a new new object. Talk myself out of it. I'm going to have to.
Starting to sound like me there.
Yeah. Say one thing, do another. I'm going to create a new plane. Now I'm going to apply that texture I just created in Paint Shop to that object, that plane I just laid down. And this one I'll definitely have to adjust the texture to the object with the UVW unwrap modifier. See, one thing I did not do, I just caught myself, I did not create a TGA which will have alpha channel. And how I know this is if I go into, whoops, clicking the wrong one. If I go into the texture that I just applied there, which is a bitmap, infield bitmap, the alpha source there, as far as the image alpha, is not selected, and it's not selectable. So what I need to do is create a TGA, and I've found the best way to do this is to take your bitmap or your texture, run it through WinMap2, as I find it. Okay, take my texture as a bitmap, open it up in WinMap2, and then you have the option to select TGA, and before you save it, it's got this little box here that says invisible color. What you want to do is do left shift, then click on that magenta, and now you'll see it, that's the invisible color. Important point is to make sure it's TGA, invisible color, and then save the file. Now that will maintain an alpha channel in that texture. Now I'll have oops, I must have saved that in the wrong spot. Try that one more time. I had it pointed in the wrong spot. Oh, that's actually in the track mat. Okay. No problem. Pro and con, I guess, to WinMap2s. It only does what it tells you, what you tell it to. Okay, so now in Max, I'm going to select that TGA that I just created with an alpha channel. And now I've got it selected. And the alpha source here, if you look at the parameters for that texture, it has the radio button for the image alpha selected. So now when I save this as a pass file with that texture, it'll automatically have an alpha channel on that object. So anything that you apply that has an alpha channel, it makes that invisible, transparent. Now I'm going to apply UVW unwrap modifier so that I can adjust this texture across this object. Make it the appropriate size in the edit window for that modifier. I've just selected all the faces in the perspective view, and I now can see that in my UVW edit screen window here. And now I can pull these points. You can see it adjusting in the perspective view. Now it's
I suppose glass is one thing that I have not mastered yet.
shininess.
Just getting the effect of what I'm looking at.
Right. As you can see, I've got that texture completely mapped to this plane, and all these areas here will be transparent. I'll have a nice edge. It'll clean up that edge when I apply it to the object itself. Well, in Sandbox, I should say. I'm going to rename this. I think we're coming up on the last 10 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
Just keeping an eye on that since you mentioned that.
I've been up for an hour and 38 minutes.
Okay, saving a new pass and a new 3DS. Okay, I'm going to plug that. I'm going to make a new MIP right away. Okay, going back to the Make 3DO option here, I still got my command line open. I'm going to call that back up.
No whisper target found.
Gotta fix those whispers. I'll do that offline.
No whisper target found.
Okay, now I'm going to reset sandbox so I can load that new object. Let's see what it did. Okay, I got some adjustment, I guess, to make there. Not really sure why it made it that size. That's not what I...
What do you think of this glass texture?
Let's see what you have. Oh, you're trying to put like sky and stuff in there, I see.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have an actual reflection on the model, so.
No. I would just say just leave it as a solid, you know, just leave it as a solid color, and then just let the environment take care of it if we apply a reflection map to it. But if you want to do it that way without applying the environment, see, and I guess the only problem, and we talked about this offline too, as far as like track right as it sits for now is going to be represented during the day, but it's obviously going to be a night track. So you almost have to make sure you do two different textures, I guess, to accommodate that for this Windows.
Yeah.
Something to think about. I'm gonna figure out why that's not the size I made the infield object. Let me try and close it right out. That ain't right. I don't know what I did wrong, but for some reason it's using the same size of the original infield object that I created. That's not correct though. also it's not, does not show transparency. That's not good. Something got messed up there.
Well, I think I'm gonna end the stream here pretty soon. I plan on streaming at some point during the week, maybe Wednesday evening. I'm not sure. I'll try to stream on Friday night. I know, Jason, you said you were busy Friday, so I'll probably work on something like Bristolville or something like that Friday evening.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. The viewers a little bit something different to look at, different track. If they're getting tired of looking at this one or not. Yeah, it's coming up on about that time that well, it's just probably taking a little bit longer. It might have seemed a little bit boring, but we hope that some of the viewers, I guess, got something out of it.
Definitely leave us feedback if you think there's anything that we can do differently or different things that you want to see.
Absolutely. If you haven't already, make sure you please like the SBP fan page, Facebook fan page, and also YouTube channel. Keep an eye on that as far as like when we'll be having streams, live streams available. Like James said, probably typically Mondays. Has been our pattern so far is doing 2 streams on Mondays, possibly Wednesdays, and James says Fridays. Do his own deal. So turn your notifications on Twitch to get those email notifications as to when we're actually live. Like the Facebook page. James has a Twitter. And we hope to see you again soon.
All right, thanks, guys.